Hello. I'm a woman in my mid-50s. My father died early, so I lived alone with my mother. When I was in middle school, my mother was proposed to be remarried many times, but she declined all of them, saying that she only needed me. I felt bad because my mother was struggling to make ends meet by herself while working as an insurance agent. Mom, why don't you reconsider? Why do you reject all of them without even trying? What if you missed out on a good person for you? It's okay. You shouldn't have to worry about things like that. Other kids hate it when their mothers get remarried, but why aren't you? That's because you're having a hard time by yourself, and I want you to live more comfortably. I'm fine, so you don't need to worry and just study hard. I later found out that my mother didn't want to hurt me even more if she remarried. She was worried that the man's family might treat me badly. Ever since I learned that, I was more grateful to my mother. I wanted to ease my mother's suffering a little bit, so I majored in metal craft art at a junior college. Because I love decorating and making things with my hands, I thought of making a career out of it. My mom regretted that I didn't go to a 4-year university, but I didn't care. I wanted to take some burden off from my mother as soon as possible. I considered myself dead and did nothing but studying all through college and got various certifications. Thanks to that, I was able to get a job right after graduation. It was a company that made craft buttons and brooches, which was quite large for a small business. The day I heard the news that I got hired, my mom and I went to a restaurant in the city to celebrate. Mom, from now on, I'll earn money, so you should take some rest. What are you talking about? It's your first job, so how can you do it alone? I'm still young. I don't have to rest, so Julie, do whatever you want to do now. You didn't even have any good time properly because you studied all the time when you were in school. Otherwise, I will think that I'm so pathetic that you were only working because of me. She stressed it over and over again. But after work, I wasn't sure what to do because I had never done anything or had a hobby. I didn't know what to do with the spare time I had suddenly. Then one of the co-workers who joined the company at the same time as I did told me that he was in a movie appreciation club, so I asked if I could be in it too. I thought that it would be a good way to pass the time while watching something fun without spending a lot of money. I went to the meeting and hung out a few times, and it was really fun. We met once every 2 weeks or once a month. And I looked forward to it, and 6 months passed quickly since I joined the movie club. When I was in college, I didn't know what was fun because I was only studying. Then one day, a man came up to me. He was a member of the club who joined it before me and said that he kept noticing me. I want to meet you separately. So could we meet? You have seen me for several months, so you probably know that I'm not a weird person. I want to date you. I was attracted to the way he honestly talked about his feelings. I met him on weekends when there were no club meetings. He was a little soft-hearted and timid, but I liked how kind and warm he was. Maybe because my father died early, I wanted to get from him the warmth I missed from my father. I also thought we got along better because he also didn't have his father. After dating him for almost a year, I became convinced that we loved each other. I waited for him to ask me to marry him, but when the decisive moment came, he couldn't say it and would change the subject to something else. I felt frustrated watching his timidness, so I ended up talking about it first. Jacob, are you going to marry me? What are you going to do? Am I mistaken that you act like you would propose to me but change the subject at the last moment? Why are you doing this? Say no if you don't want to marry me. You have to make yourself clear so I can give up too. No, Julie. I was worried about what to do if you said you didn't like my proposal. So I put it off. But because I kept putting it off, we ended up like this. I really don't want to break up with you, Julie. Then I'll give you time until next weekend. I will accept any proposal with you, Julie. After a week, He finally handed me a ring. It was in the top floor lounge of a luxury hotel with a panoramic view of the city. Marry me, Julie. I won't let you regret it. I don't think I can do without you. I want to marry you too. Thank you for proposing to me, Jacob. That was how I got engaged, and we announced it to both sides of the family. My mom told Jacob to be nice to me, and my mother-in-law and his younger sister also welcomed me warmly. His mother told me to take good care of my husband. I thought I met someone who was very compatible with me. I dreamed of a happy married life, and I thought I could live like that. But that dream was shattered as soon as I returned from our honeymoon. When I went to my mother-in-law's house to say hello, before I could even catch my breath, she pushed me into the kitchen, made me do all sorts of chores late into the night, and never gave me time to sit down. While I was washing the last dishes and tidying up in the kitchen, my husband was in the living room and watched TV while eating fruit with his mother and sister. He didn't even think to see what I was doing and just laughed while watching TV. I felt so frustrated and abandoned. My husband and I were able to return to our newlywed home late at night. Isn't your mother being too much? How can she not let me sit down once and keep me working, who just returned from the honeymoon? Aside from our dinner, why do I also have to cook all the side dishes for your mom to last for a week? I even had to make the jam. Your sister didn't lift a finger to help. How could you laugh and watch TV while I was doing all the work by myself? I thought it was okay because you didn't say anything and did as my mom told you to. If you hated that so much, you should have told my mom earlier. Why are you being like that to me? And since you're married now, you're a member of my family. But you're as if talking about someone else's house. I feel hurt when you do that. My mom and my sister are now your family, too. What family is this? If we are a family, we should do it together to help. Why am I doing it all by myself? This is as if I'm a housemate. To be honest, your mother was being too much today. Your sister too. When I didn't let go of my anger, my husband only looked at me. Okay, next time, if something like this happens, I'll talk to my mom then. I promise, so let's stop for today. But the promise was not kept. My mother-in-law called me out often, and my sister-in-law also played a role. Julie, I need to have a perm, so please give me some money. I'm going to the movies with my friends, so give me money for our meals. Julie, I need to buy that dress. It was hard enough to go to work at my in-laws' house, but my sister-in-law asked me to give her money every time she saw me. So, seeing my in-laws in itself was stressful, and I couldn't stand it, so I told my sister-in-law one day, "Sis, it seems like I gave you money every time I saw you since I got married, but I don't think I can give it to you every time because we have to live our lives too." Then, she immediately called her mom. Is it a waste to give our Ginger some spending money when you brought nothing when you got married? Are you being difficult with my son's money? I accepted you when you had no good family or education. Then you should just shut your mouth and do what you're told. Yet, how dare you say anything? Mother, I'm sorry to hear you say that. From the moment I came back from my honeymoon, I was the one who came here and worked. In the meantime, I've done everything you and Ginger asked me to do. And you talk about money, but it was you who told me to quit working. I do housework at home and come here to do your work, so I wish you don't treat me like someone who spends my husband's money for freely. I said everything I wanted to say. These were the words I said after I had endured for 3 months since I got married, but my mother-in-law was furious. Did you come to my house and work with that kind of feelings inside? Is it something to talk about when the daughter-in-law is doing what her mother-in-law asked her to do? You were very fundamentally raised wrong. That's why I said one needs to see the bride's mother. Mother, it's okay to curse at me, but please don't talk about my mother. I really can't stand that. After saying that, I ignored my mother-in-law and sister-in-law who were swearing at me from behind and just came back home. I didn't even tell my husband about this. The husband I saw all this time only said he would stop his mother and sister, but he never kept his word. Before marriage, I found it cute that he was weak and timid, but it made me sick because I couldn't do this or that. I started looking for a job thinking that I had shot myself in the foot. My mother-in-law was determined to use me as her housekeeper, and it seemed that if I did not earn any money, she would later interfere with my household. Fortunately, it was only a few months since I quit the company, so I got a job with my previous work experience. It was a company that supplied fashion metal accessories to large companies. When I started going to work again, at first, my mother-in-law cursed at me that as a woman, I didn't do the housework and was going outside, but she couldn't stop me. When I went to work, I felt free from the stress of my in-laws and my husband. Even if something uncomfortable happened at work, it was better than being at home. Then, it was my mother's birthday. I made a reservation at a high-end restaurant for 3 of us to eat out with my mom and my husband. But it wasn't just my husband and my mom waiting for me when I went to the restaurant after work. Somehow, my mother-in-law knew and she was also there. When I looked at my husband, he couldn't look at me, so it seemed that he told his mom about it. I couldn't believe it, but my mother-in-law said something even more absurd. "It's your mother's birthday, so I'm just skipping today, but isn't she now our family? I wish you wouldn't ask the kids for anything." What would I ask for? I have nothing to ask from them as long as they live well. Even if you say so, how can you be sure that the money my daughter-in-law earns will not go to you? Will you promise not to do that with me? I became so angry. What are you doing? Today is my mom's birthday. So, it's an occasion I made to celebrate for my mom. You weren't even formally invited. But why did you come like this and say things like that? How can you do this? And the money? I earned it. It's none of your business how I use it. You shouldn't worry since your son gives you an allowance every month from the money he earns. And I dragged my mother by the hand and left. My mom didn't say anything because she was upset too. I bought an expensive gift for my mother, but it didn't ease my mood as she had already ruined it. And soon after, my sister-in-law held a dinner meeting with both families, saying that she would marry her boyfriend. My sister-in-law seemed to prepare for her wedding without any major problems. But a big problem arose. My husband took my money out of my own bank account without telling me and gave it to his mother. Why did you give my money to your mother? My sister is getting married and my mom wanted you to help out by giving her $50,000. But I couldn't ask you because I didn't have the nerve. So, you're just stealing other people's money? No, why is it stealing? You're too much. Your money is our community property. The first thing I heard from your mother after I quit my job was that I was spending your money. If it's our money, why was she talking to me like that? I immediately went to see his mother. She was so bold and brazen. Has her family honor increased just because you became our daughter-in-law? What benefit do we have? Of course. I thought you would take care of it first, but since you didn't do anything, I told Jacob. Jacob wouldn't let me even say a word to you about it. You sure are killing your husband's pride, don't you? Mother, if you don't give that money back, I'll get a divorce. I can't live like this. Are you threatening me? Okay, go and get divorced. Whose loss would it be? You know that divorce is worse for women, right? Our Jacob got married less than a year ago. So he's almost like a new bachelor, so there's nothing to regret over. Okay, then live without any regrets. After saying that, I went home, packed my things, and went to my mom's house. My husband came to visit me and begged me to come back on the phone. But I didn't want to live with someone who was so indecisive and only listened to his mother, like a mama's boy. In the end, I divorced my husband after 9 months of marriage, on the condition that I would not ask for a contested divorce. After that, I lived immersed only in work. I didn't want to look at any man, and I didn't even want to date again in the future. I was crazy about my work and lived like that. And the company's managing director had a good impression of me and took me with him when he left the company to set up his own business. I started working as a mid-level executive at a new company. The salary didn't increase, but I got a great incentive. Most of all, I liked that I was free to design and create my own brand. Then, the brooch I made caught the eye of a famous fashion company, and we got a big contract to supply them on very good terms. I received even more design orders. Based on that, our company's sales shot up. A few years later, our company grew in size, and as it merged with another jewelry company on good terms, I was promoted to the position of managing director. Hey boss, I'm a little burdened by this promotion. I'm not the right person who deserves to be in that position. What are you talking about? Without you, we couldn't have merged with such a great company. Don't worry too much. I'll help you if there's anything difficult. The company president encouraged me. My mother wept, holding me. I was worried about you, thinking what would happen if things didn't work out after your divorce. Seeing how well you're doing, I wish for nothing more. I can put my mind at ease. I moved into a spacious house with a view with my mother. I bought my mother a car and hired a chauffeur for her. Even if I'm the managing director, I felt it's just entitled and I didn't need a driver, so I drove myself. I wanted my mother to meet her friends freely, travel and have fun. Just entitled, and I didn't need a driver, so I drove myself. I wanted my mother to meet her friends freely, travel and have fun, and it was a day to announce our new product. Among them were a set of earrings and necklaces that I designed myself. It was quite a big gala event which was held in a luxury hotel. I decided to go with my mother. My mother was to come with her driver separately from our house. I was waiting for my mother in the parking lot of the hotel, and a man driving a garbage truck and clearing out the trash bins kept glancing at me. I noticed him, but I didn't think it was a big deal. When my mother came and saw him, she cried out in surprise, "Jacob?" Hearing that, I was surprised and turned to look at him. He really was my ex-husband. Neither I nor my mother could speak anymore and hurriedly went up in the elevator. I didn't know why he was driving a garbage truck. After my divorce, I deliberately kept away from news of my ex-in-laws and my ex-husband. After the event, my mom held my hand tightly and gave me a proud look. "I'm so proud of my daughter. Well done. Thank you so much for doing so well." "What are you talking about? It's all thanks to you, Mom. When you struggled to raise me, would I be where I am today if it weren't for you?" I choked up too. After such a good time, we came to the parking lot to go home. My ex-husband showed up in front of my mom and me. He was blocking us. Both my mother and I were surprised. "Hey, what is this? Don't do this and get out of the way." "Mother, I'm not trying to do anything. I'm going to talk to Julie for a second." But I said coolly, "What are you talking about? I have nothing to say to you." "Julie, don't be like that, but just for a second. I regretted it a lot after we got divorced. You wouldn't take my calls or meet with me, so I had no choice but to get divorced. I really didn't want to get divorced." He hung on to me. "How long has it been, and why are you doing this now? And don't talk to me and don't call me by my name. You and I are strangers now. There's nothing between us." When it kept being cold to the end, my ex-husband had no choice but to step back. Both my mom and I felt uncomfortable after a good day. Then, as I suspected, a few days later, a really surprising thing happened. My ex-mother-in-law came to our house. She came to see my mother when I was away. I got a call from my mother at work saying that my ex-mother-in-law came to the house, so I went straight home. My ex-mother-in-law was arguing with my mother in front of our house. "You can't come here like this. We don't even have a relationship anymore. I wonder why you're doing this because it happened more than 7 years ago when they broke up." At my mother's words, my ex-mother-in-law insisted. 7 years or 10 years, can ties of a relationship be so easily broken? So, isn't this why we met again? Stop doing this and go back. If my daughter comes and sees you, she will have a fit. So please talk to your daughter and persuade her. Let's start it again. You honestly have a little bit of responsibility for this too, don't you? Hearing that, I was very angry. What responsibility? Stop yelling your nonsense at my mother. When I screamed, my ex-mother-in-law recoiled in surprise, but she soon acted cowardly, smiling sweetly to the point of giving me goosebumps. "You've been doing well. Your face looks great. I wanted you and Jacob to start again. I think I went a bit too far before. That won't happen, so go back. Don't ever come back. How the hell did you know where I live? I called your work and said that I was your relative, but I couldn't find your house, and your secretary came to help me. You really made it to have even your own secretary. It was a mistake on our part, so I won't say more. Please leave. My dear, why don't you think about it again? Seeing that you're not married yet. I don't think you have forgotten Jacob very much. Wouldn't it be nice for both of you to get back together before it's too late? So after having a baby, you should visit my house like before and have fun." How could you even say something like that? Both my ex-mother-in-law and I were surprised by my mother's loud, angry voice. No matter how bad my mother-in-law was, she'd never raised her voice like that before. "Look, what did you do to my daughter? And what about me? What? I shouldn't keep the money my daughter earns because it's money that belongs to your household? And have fun going in and out of your house ever since your honeymoon. You did nothing but use my daughter as your maid. And how could you say that now? If my daughter did not become this successful, would you come and act as if to kiss her feet like this?" She just poured it out until my ex-mother-in-law's face turned red and she didn't know what to do. I calmed down my mother and told my ex-mother-in-law, "Hey, you old lady, it's not that I didn't get married because I couldn't forget your son. I am sick of you and your family that I don't want to see a guy again. Your son can't come again on his own this time, still hides behind your back to talk on his behalf. What could I believe in a man like that? I will never meet a man like your son who steals money from his wife to give it to his sister. And I never want to see a mother-in-law like you again. Stop talking nonsense to my mom and get out of here right away. Otherwise, I will call the police and also get a restraining order from the court." As I threatened, my ex-mother-in-law grabbed my hand and said, "I'm so sorry. I was really wrong. Don't talk to me anymore. I will not let it go just because you're an old lady." I went inside with my mom. It turns out that my ex-sister-in-law's husband took all their money to run a business and skipped town. It left my ex-husband saddled with loans. He was also laid off from his job. Their household, which didn't have money problems before, collapsed overnight. After that incident, my ex-husband and his mother still came to our house many times. I really called the police, and when they saw the police, they ran away and were never seen again. We sold the house and moved to another place. That was already 10 years ago. Although our company has become smaller in the midst of the recession and various difficult economic conditions, it is still doing well. I also recently met a guy with whom I could be friends. Marriage still hurts me so much, so I don't want to do it. My goal is to live well with my mother until the end. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope everyone is happy. Please cheer for me and write your comments of wisdom in the comments section. Pressing like and subscription is a big help to me. Have a nice day.